This is the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center inside Wild Wing Cafe with Charlie Frederick and the coach Alan Major. I'm Matt Swerat. Glad to have you along. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. 704-358-8768. Love to have your phone calls tonight. We'll be taking your phone calls for the next 60 minutes or so, talking Niner basketball. And we haven't been here for a while, Coach. Charlie, good to see you. Coach, great to see you again. It's been a short turnaround from this morning when we landed back here at Halton Arena from the trip last night in Richmond. But it has been an active period of basketball for the 49ers with a holiday break. We had New Year's, and it was a great trip down to Atlanta, to Macon. Some good things going on right now.
It's been a while since we sat here and kind of, as Coach Vandross likes to say, chopped it up a little bit. But no, it's the guys have made some strides, and obviously, didn't get the one last night we would like to have, especially go back and watch film. A lot of close opportunities there. But for the most part, since we've sat here before, our defense has improved, and they've shown great fortitude in terms of being able to fight and scrap, and we've been in some tough spots, but they've hung together. So really proud of the way they've just kind of, managed to take things a game at a time and a play at a time.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. It all began with a Tennessee win, and, of course, that was against number 7 Tennessee. And then Tennessee kind of stumbled a little bit, but they got back last night, back to where they kind of were before we played them. Mm-hmm. They knocked off Memphis by 20. We're beating them by 30 late in the game, so a great win for the Volunteers. But when those things kind of happen, now that's a great win for us because we beat them.
Yeah, I hope they run the table the rest of the way, to be honest with you. Same with Georgia Tech. You hope those guys continue to kind of have great years. But, at the time, they were deserving of their ranking. You never can know what happens with another guy's team. And people have asked me about Tennessee, and I've respectfully just declined it because, I just don't think you can, it's kind of a hidden thing in coaching. You just don't make a comment about another guy's team, and no matter what they're going through. I'm sure they'll bounce back, and they're heading into SEC play. I know Coach has got those suspensions going on, but they're a great team, and so at the time, when we did win the game, for us and the timing of it, it was great. It was something that we needed.
As we go into the new year now, we had KJ Cheryl join the club off the injury 4 games ago now, and it's nice to have him in the rotation. And it looks like you're going to get Charles Dewhurst back pretty soon. Had the surgery a few days ago, had the screws taken out of his finger that he broke. And I'm assuming you got him wrapped in bubble wrap now, so nothing's going to happen for the next few days.
He's got FBI security. We got him a hotel room.
Should be all set going to Olean tomorrow.
He's surrounded by search dogs, and so he'll be fine. We're
So,
not going to let him get hurt again.
Being a senior and now just 15 games left in his career, I know he's chomping at the bit to get back out there, and you just want the extra body too. So I'm assuming at some point soon he's going to get on the floor.
Yeah. And again, even with just 15 games to go, we still don't want to do anything that could damage him, permanently in terms of his hand. But, no, it would be good to have him, we'll get him back in practice a little bit as soon as they say, the word go. And, he'll give us an experienced guy, a guy who can handle the ball, a good defender, kind of a sneaky athlete. You guys know probably more than me. You've seen him throughout the years, and he's just kind of got a nose for it. I don't know how to define it, but
he gets a lot of rebounds for a guy his height.
He really does. Always just kind of finds a way to be around the ball. So I just felt bad for him because, the general public, it's so hard for them to see how hard a kid works to come back off an injury. And, he had kind of worked himself to get back into shape. Then he's ready to play, and then he hurts his knee. I mean, literally, it was the first day of practice. So, you just feel bad for him that he made a commitment to come back and finish off his last year of eligibility, but yet he's just had these hurdles that he's dealt with, and it's like, the bad luck slap rock, the cartoon character, he walks by and the piano falls on somebody, you feel bad for the kid. But I love Charles to death because he's been there every day. He's running along the sideline. He's dribbling the ball. I mean, he's always doing something to stay engaged. So, hopefully we'll get him back soon.
Now, after the win over Tennessee and before you went down for the Georgia Invitational, you had to sort of validate that Tennessee win by playing a very tough team from Wright State.
Yeah.
And I know you were familiar with them. A lot of fans were not, but they're a very good ball club, and you had to come from behind to beat them.
They in the Horizon League, you kind of have a 3-headed monster between Butler, Cleveland State, and Wright State. And people that know basketball kind of follow it. They'll have a feel about how good those guys were. But a lot of those guys were Coach Brownell's kids before he went to Clemson. 3 senior starting guards. Right. Anytime you have 3 senior starting guards, I don't care what part of the planet you're on, you're going to have a pretty good team. And so they were well coached, and those guys could shoot the ball. So my biggest fear of that game was just the hangover coming off Tennessee, and it's emotional, and we did kind of have some there for a good chunk of the game, but to kind of come back and be down, I want to say it was 13 or 14 at one
14,
point.
I think.
To kind of come back and dig it out. So again, that's a credit to the guys.
And that's a team that you're going to play again next year up there, right? But
Yeah.
they'll be, thankfully, those 3 seniors will be gone.
I'll make sure of it. Yeah.
When the conference play started last night for us, we talked about the second season starting, and you guys had the way the finish was to the non-conference schedule going 8-6. But as conference starts, was there any different kind of feeling for you guys last night? Anything different the preparation is still the same things you're trying to do, but come game time, was there a different feeling now that it's conference play?
A little bit. I think, once the ball goes up, it's the physicality of the game is just a notch higher. And again, some of that was, Richmond, and they got a lot of depth there. They got more size than probably people give them credit for. I think people have always associated Richmond with being just a bunch of 3-point shooters out there running around, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. I mean, they got, 6'10" 4-man, 6'9" center, another, 2 more 6'9" guys that come off the bench. So, they had great size, but it was just an extra level of physicality in the game. And you could tell, and I think that's normally what happens in conference play. Refs are going to let you play a little bit. Some of the stuff that maybe gets emphasized in point of emphasis officiating might get let go a little bit come conference time. It's been kind of back to Cowboys and Indians a little bit, but that is what it is. But you can definitely tell the physicality of the game, of a conference game maybe versus a non-conference game, is a little bit different.
With the Georgia Tech win, able to come back the way you did, down 14 in the first half, and then it's kind of a back and forth thing. You get the lead down to about 3 or 4, and to go back up to 9. You didn't have a lead in that game until overtime. That was really amazing.
Yeah.
And then you had the 9-point lead. At that point, I think some of us started to think, okay, we got this one. All of a sudden, Shumpert it to 3, and then Shumpert it's another 3, and before you know it, they got the ball again. It's a 3-point game. What were you thinking at that point?
Hold on. But no, I mean, Shumpert's probably a potential first-round draft pick. And so whenever you have a pro on your roster, that gives you a chance to maybe get yourself out of some plays or get you out of jams because you know that you've got that one guy that you can ride. And, if you have 2 pros, you're probably going to have a really good team. Usually the magic number is 3, and they say you're in the Final 4, So, but Shumpert's a big-time player. I mean, he's unusual for a guard because of his size. He can handle the ball. And the one shot he hit, it was really hard for us to get upset with Anwan because we froze it on film, and the kid was literally standing a foot in front of the hash mark in front of their bench.
Right.
And then we are up 6 at the time. If he misses it, the game's over. And so he made an extraordinary play. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from them at all. I mean, they had a big-time player make some big-time shots.
You guys are just going out. Adam, he's going further back. It was like the old Brandon Plavic days with us. You just keep going further outside. And
Right.
I'll never forget the game we won in double overtime at Old Dominion. The last shot that Plavic hit, he was actually outside the television screen.
Yeah.
They were showing it. The ball came from outside the screen.
Yeah.
That's how far away he was.
Right. No, when your shooting range goes outside the TV camera, you can shoot the ball.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. Let's go to the email questions now. And the email questions brought to us by 49erfanatics.com, the weekly email segment. You can send us an email each week at Major49ershow. That's Major49ER at yahoo.com. We'll take those questions throughout the week, and we'll have Coach answer a few of them during the show each Thursday night. And today's first question, Coach, comes from Jim Brady. And he says, Coach, I'm enjoying all these great comebacks because we're winning them. And he asked how your ticker's doing. First of all, I know after the game you look spent when you come over to talk to me, so I know you're getting worn out.
Yeah.
He said his is ticking pretty hard. Dario has improved his guard play each day, especially as a passer. His question is that going against DeMario Mayfield and Luca Vancina in practice every day? Is that what's making him a better guard?
You know, that's a tremendous question, and he's probably exactly right because both those guys end up defending Dario at different points in practice, and they're different. You know, with Luca, you have a guy that's more of a position guy that keeps Dario in front, but when he gets into maybe an attacking area, Luca's 200 pounds, he's 6'2", so he's physical, and so it's forcing Dario to deal with a different type of guy that way. And then when DeMario closes out in practice on Dario, what you have is a 6'4" physical guy that's going to get into him and force him to drive against pressure. So Luca gives you more of a position defender who's solid, and then Dede is what we call DeMario. He gives more of a pressure Georgia Tech style defender who's long, who's going to get in there, try to rake the ball away from you. So both those guys in their own way have helped. That's a tremendous question. He's exactly right.
He's right, not only about Dario being a better passer, but the big guys are catching the ball a lot better than they used to. For example, against Georgia Tech, he fed Phil Jones in the lane. The pass was a little bit behind him. Phil caught it and dunked it.
He did.
Last year he wouldn't even caught the pass, much less dunked it. He's really improved. So has Chris in catching and shooting.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we tease it. It's a running joke among coaching. That you have to spoon feed big guys. It's kind of like when you serve the baby food and you pretend it's a helicopter and you come swooping in and you're gonna, that's kind of how you have to treat bigs. That put them in position where they can catch and finish, as opposed to have to worry about catching and then getting themselves in
right.
position to go finish. Just set them up when they're right there, and then and Dario's done a nice job of that.
Well, we got a lot more show for you here tonight. Our phone number is 704-358-8768, 704-358-8768. Our special player guest is actually assistant coach Rob Perrin tonight, and he's awfully excited because, being a guy from Minnesota, Burt Blyleven just got in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be talking junk.
His week was made yesterday when Burt Behome Blyleven got in the Hall of Fame.
Blyleven threw junk, and Perrin will be talking junk, so it fits.
We got Coach P coming up later on, but Coach Major's coming back. We'll talk more of your email questions, also more about this upcoming road trip to St. Bonaventure. Niners playing their second consecutive conference road game before we get back home on the 15th of January against the Fordham Rams. This is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe off of Malley Creek Church Road here until 8 o'clock. Talking Charlotte 49ers basketball with Alan Major. Our phone number is 704-358-8768, 704-358-8768. The Niners had a 4-game winning streak going into the game yesterday, and unfortunately in the end it was Richmond winning that ball game 71-59. And Richmond has since we've gotten to the league now, has gotten us 7 times in the 11 times we've played. We had a lot of success before we actually got into the A-10 to play them. And Coach Mooney's had a big reason. He's brought in some pretty good players. They've changed their system. And when he first got there, Coach, he really was playing that Princeton style and just holding the ball and backdoor cuts. And he was able to get some of his own athletes in there. And Kevin Anderson is one of the best, if not the best guard in this league, isn't he?
Absolutely. He's player of the year for a reason. And, if he's not hurting himself, he's getting something for somebody else. Where he's getting in the paint, he's setting guys up and sprays the ball around. Everybody gets involved. He's speedy. He can get to the rim. He's got good shooting range. So he's just an all-around great guard. And, what Chris has done is he's added just a little bit more freedom into that style. They still are running the Princeton stuff, but there's a little bit more of a green light in there. And I think, in recruiting, I'm sure that's something that he probably sold as well. So, they're a well-coached team. I mean, I think you play teams like that, and we told the guys it just comes down to little things, And then as we looked at film today, there's 5 or 6, 7 possessions on either side of the ball. It's amazing. Everything, stuff can just kind of turn on a trifle in a heartbeat, And the example I'll give is that we're down 5, with 5+ minutes to go, which is clearly a striking distance. For us anyway, recently it's been that way.
Got it right where you want it right there.
They skipped the ball to Harper, and we kind of lost track of him. He makes a 3. and the game goes to 8 instead of maybe us getting a rebound. You get a stop, and now you can go down. If you convert, it's a 1, 2, or 3-point game. Depending on if you make a free throw, hit a bucket, or hit a 3. So it's amazing. A game can go from -2 to -8 just in that one swing. So that's the stuff that this league is about in terms of just the little things and just finding those areas where you can kind of trim the fat within a game and take advantage.
And in that Mercer game, I want to mention Javaris Barnett in both instances. The stat stuffer, he was fantastic. 4 of 5 from behind the arc,
really
7
was.
of 9 from the floor, 18 points. But it was his 3 late in the game that was the shot that really won the game for us.
That was, yep. A couple of huge plays. It was kind of a double whammy difference maker. That was one. And Dario did a nice job. He got to the paint and found him in the corner right in front of the bench. And I think that put us up 4 with about 22 seconds left to go. There was a zone defense play down the stretch before that where Dario closed out. He tips the ball. Phil Jones tips it. Dario steals it, goes down, lays it in. That just kind of turned the momentum a little bit in that last 3 or 4 minutes. So the thing that you're proudest of, from a coaching standpoint, is you look at some of these stat sheets after games, and everybody's kind of found a way to chip in. Free throws, loose balls, Deuce led us in rebounding against Georgia Tech, of all people. He snatches 8 rebounds. And so that's the stuff people maybe don't realize when you look at a stat sheet, because the general public maybe can't always see stat sheets like us. So they don't maybe see the impact that guys are doing outside of scoring. And everybody's just kind of found a way to chip in. So we're proud of them for that.
Are games like Mercer, when you have a team like we have right now that at this point, especially at that point, was still kind of finding their way, coming off the big win, and then going, and coming from behind to beat Wright State, and all of a sudden you go to Mercer and the general public sees, well, they're 4-9, and you're thinking, okay, we're supposed to just blow this team out.
Yeah.
Well, we know they almost beat Georgia the time before that, and they got a team that's getting better too.
Absolutely.
And there's nobody there, and the atmosphere is not great.
Yeah.
It's a trap game, and it's got to be awfully, for you, scary going into that game because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, and they're the best 4-9, or I'm not sure 3-10, wherever they were, team in the country. To me, I mean, they had lost a bunch of games, 5 points or less. Just they've been right there. Had Georgia on the ropes. Ironically, played Georgia Tech the day after we played them, and led for the majority of that game at Georgia Tech. So, they ended up, losing. I want to say by 9 to Georgia Tech. So, they've knocked on the door on multiple games. And again, I think we had talked about that before we played Mercer. Their records are deceiving. And every game you drop that maybe is a tight one like that. That it creates more of a sense of urgency for the next one. So that next team is the one that's like got a bullseye on it, because if they don't get that game, then that next team has the bullseye on it, because they want to get to the point where they start getting some traction at some point as they head into their own league. So us going down there and the timing and it was all set up for maybe and the energy, maybe you got to bring your own energy in the building like that. It's over the holidays, no students. So, for the guys to kind of dig it out, again, and JB was a huge part of that one.
I mentioned this after the Georgia Tech game to you on the post-game show, but it goes back to the Mercer game. As a coach, you're part psychologist too, and as you get these guys, you're trying to see how what buttons you can push that makes it work. And there's never been a sense of panic as you keep teaching right now. And in that Mercer game, that was a game, as you look, maybe the guys could have gotten tight and not executed down the stretch, but that wasn't the case. Hit the free throws, made the shots, cut the turnovers down at the end when they had to.
Yep.
And same against Georgia Tech. Out of the timeouts, just watching you guys interact with them, it was a sense of calm almost. Maybe you weren't feeling that inside, but you kind of brought that out to them, and I think it really paid big dividends down the stretch in that second overtime.
We hope so. Games are stressful enough. Just the game itself, 5-on-5, referees, crowd. It's stressful enough as a player when you're out there. And you're going to have some slippage. You're going to have things that you practice slip a little bit because you're being defended hard. The other team has these things called scouting reports where they prepared to, and their guys are ready and they know tendencies. And so, we just try to get our staff. I mean, if we add pressure to the game, by losing our minds or maybe being overly upset at turnovers or things like that. What happens is, that stress transfers to the guys. Now all of a sudden, they got to deal with us and the opponent. So, we try to keep it to where, hey, if we can give them a sense of, all right, hey, let's just get to the next play. If you miss a shot, don't hang your head, get back on defense. If you go on an 8-0 run, don't over-celebrate and get the party hats out. You still got to play the next play. So just trying to develop an even keel, and hopefully, down the road as we continue to get better, that'll continue to transfer itself.
Talking a little bit more about Javaris, he's sort of symbolic of this team. Start of the year, he was seldom used.
Yeah.
It seemed tentative to shoot the ball. Now he's one of your leading contributors.
Yeah.
He's hit 60% of his three-point shots the last 3 games. I mean, he wants the ball now.
Yeah.
He wants to shoot it. He's not forcing anything.
No, he's
but
not.
He's become a really key cog in your attack.
Absolutely. No, if Javaris prepared for this back in May, June, July, August, in the summer, grabbing managers on weekends. You come into the office on a Sunday afternoon, and he's walking out of the building sweating, on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of the summer. And, it's JB's getting shots again. And you just kept hearing it over and over. He's in the gym. He's being rewarded. That's the best part about the game of basketball. It finds a way, kind of like life, to reward you if you do the right things. And that's what's happened to him, is he's worked himself into being a key part of what we're doing. So a lot of credit goes to the kid, because this hasn't been handed to him. I mean, he's earned it.
Right.
He's earned it. So, very proud of him.
Coach, back to the email segment brought to us by 49erfanatics.com. Also, our phone number, 704-358-8768. This next question comes from Doug Stafford, and he says, Coach, I'm baffled by the stats in the Richmond game. Aside from turnovers, I thought we looked good. I'd really shoot 4 free throws, especially when we went inside of Chris, Anwan, and Phil. We out-rebounded them, outscored the Spiders in the paint in transition off turnovers and fast break points, and shot a respectable 45%. Of course, Richmond shot 16 free throws, not much either. I know you can't speak directly about the officials, but was this game officiated like the non-league games, or can we expect more of these types of games in the A-10 conference play this year? I'll also say, coming in, Richmond was shooting 62% of the free throw line.
Yeah.
They make 15 of 16 and shoot 93%. That was a big key in the game, but
Yeah.
we only got there 4 times. You're not going to talk directly about the officials,
Yeah,
but
I understand.
it was a very physical game, and that was puzzling.
Yeah, no, it was. And to their credit, there was a stat, ironically. They were 57% in the last 5 minutes as a team,
Yeah, and
all season long.
They didn't look like that, did they?
So they controlled their part of it. So hats off to them, for making them when they need to make them. Because in prepping, we had seen some games where they hadn't made them. As a matter of fact, the Bucknell game right before, where they got beat by Bucknell, Anderson missed 2 free throws with them being up 1 with 1.7 seconds to go. So, as we mentioned earlier, there's an added physical element to A-10 play, and what you try to do is control what you can. You never know, what the 3 guys are going to call. Sometimes, it goes both ways. We just try to tell our guys to make sure we maintain our level of aggression, because a lot of times a more aggressive team gets the calls. Sometimes the home team gets them too, but that is what it is. That's all part of it, but you can't control that. We just got to continue to find out ways where we can get better. And I think the beneficial thing about film today is guys looked at it and, and they didn't blame the, refs or, that's, we should have got that one, coach. It was more of like, hey, let's look where we can take care of the ball and control our destiny more. So, it was a good learning experience for us. I mean, that's a legitimate team. And, as you get better as a team, you want to find out where you stand against teams that are legitimate.
A couple of turnovers were on actually an N1 Wilderness charge, and again, that could have been borderline.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see the offensive aggressiveness that he's now showing the last 3-4 games.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that kind of hindered by the officiating, because he certainly, the last couple of games, has been a threat to score down the low block.
Yeah, definitely. He and Braz and Phil have kind of, they're starting to look for each other on the high-low stuff, and KJ's going to get back into the mix, with those guys doing that. So, but yeah, and Anwan got off to a great start, helped us get off to a great start yesterday, got a bucket early on, had an unbelievable rundown where he blocked the shot and then saved the ball back in bounds early in the game to just kind of help us, stay rolling. So, he's shown great leadership as a senior. He's not maybe a vocal guy, but he's like E.F. Hutton when he says something. You got everybody kind of ducking in, wanting to know what he's got to say. So, we're going to continue to ride him. I mean, the more production we can get from him, the better.
I noticed he's 10 for 18 his last 3 games. Has he been someone you've had to sort of encourage to use his offensive weapons a little bit more?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, he's unconventional, because he's kind of playing undersized,
right.
Small forward, power forward. So, but he knows that, we always encourage his opportunities. If he can get a guy on his back down there to go score, and he's had some games where he's had it from the top of the key and he's drove it and gotten fouled. And, hit a big 3 last night that kind of cut it to 11 to help us, start a run late in the game. So, especially him, 15 games to go. We want him to squeeze every drop out of what he's got left, no doubt.
Coach, this question coming from Robert Williamson, and talking about post players developing later in their careers, and said Phil has done a great job improving here his senior season in Charlotte. What do you do as a coach to teach the big guys to be more productive sooner in college? And again, you'd only had Phil for 1 year, but you've said about Phil and Braz, you'd love to have Phil longer than 1.
Oh,
You're lucky
yeah.
you got Braz for 3.
Yeah.
And with Phil and the development this year, we saw something last night that we hadn't seen yet, and that he took the ball free throw line and drove and scored. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, Coach Odom does a great job with those guys. And it's something that's part of a drill that he works on every day. Sometimes flashing and shooting it there, sometimes flashing and driving it if the defense crowds you. So, but no, big men just play a different game. We always tease guys that are young and talented. It's kind of like it's like fine wine. They get better with age, but they play a different game because guards grow up with the ball in their hand, and as a guard you can control a game because the ball is in your hand. So the nature of post play is that you're always playing off of what the guards do. So if a guard drives the paint, then you're playing off of him with the shovel passes, those, like you were talking about, those guys catching the ball and those dump offs.
Right.
Guards got the ball in the perimeter. If you're open, you're going to get it as a function of the guard deciding to throw you the ball or not. So everything is based on playing off of guards. And so big men don't have the control over the game that the guards do. So their games sometimes come along later because they have to learn how to figure that out over time. So, but Phil's done a nice job. I mean, he's making jump shots and he's getting on the offensive boards, and so that's why it's good to have KJ back too, because he's a burst of energy. Each one of those big guys kind of brings their own little thing to the puzzle.
Seems like Phil is going up a lot stronger with the ball than he used to. I noticed one play in a Georgia Tech game where he caught I think it was a block shot, went up. I thought he tried to dunk it one-handed. I went back and looked at the tape. His left arm was taken off the ball, and he lost control. It wasn't that he went
funny
up
how
weakly.
that happens.
Yeah, it's amazing how you miss it when that happens. But he does.
No whistle.
No, imagine that. No whistle at Georgia Tech. But he is going up a lot stronger than he used to. He used to be some hesitation. Do I lay it up? Do I finger roll it? Do I dunk it? He seems to go up pretty strong every time now.
Yeah, he had a big and one in that game. They bounced one off to him, and the guy got hit, and he finished and got the foul. Hoop and harm, as they like to say. But no, he's done a nice job of just kind of playing through contact and had 2 nice dunks in that game. He had a got on the break, and Dario bounced them off for one. So I like dunks, me personally. I like sending that thing in, get the surefire 2 points. But to him, to his credit, no, he's hopefully, you guys would know better than me, but hopefully he's playing as well as he has in a long time.
No question.
Now, don't forget our show next week is coming up also on Thursday, but it's going to be on 610, The Fan WFNZ. That's next Thursday at 7 o'clock here from Wild Wing Cafe. We'll take a break right now, and assistant coach Rob Perrin is going to be our guest when we come back here at Wild Wing Cafe. From the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center here at Wild Wing Cafe, this is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe. Got about 22 minutes left of the show. Our phone number is 888-358-8768 with Charlie Frederick and Alan Major. I'm Matt Swarad. And our special player guest today is actually assistant coach Rob Perrin. It's brought to us by TIAA Cref. And Coach, good to see you as always.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
It's a job that you have that I think a lot of folks don't realize what goes into your preparation every single day, because you're the backbone of how everything else kind of gets done every day. Director of Basketball Operations is your official title, and that runs the gamut of things from helping out scheduling to setting up practice and things like that, and travel. I mean, just give us a quick synopsis of everything that you have to do every day.
Well, I don't think it's any more important than any other person on the team, but it's kind of the catch-all category in Trivia Pursuit. You know, you do scheduling. You're the liaison between basically every department, maybe academics, getting people to media things, scheduling games now as part of my added responsibility, practice. And you know, it's not really that tough. It's just there's constant, to borrow a football term, there's constant audibles. You know, one piece doesn't fit, so then you have to change the puzzle around. But it keeps you pretty busy, but better busy than bored is what I say.
You got to adapt on the fly, too. I mean, I do somewhat of what you do with the Charlotte Knights with our team traveling, and you always panic. Like, we're going to Ole in New York tomorrow. We're going to fly out. A little easier this time with a charter plane, but if it's a regular plane, you hope you land. The bus is there, because if it's not, you know it's going to get screamed at.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. We had Steve Doughton's out in the crowd there, and I asked him about Papa John's a couple trips ago. He'll tell you an interesting story. They were a little bit late, to say the least, but hopefully they're not a sponsor.
They were.
We're clear.
No. But no, you know, when your wheels are down wherever you land, you know, the first thing you do is call the bus, and if the driver doesn't pick up right away, you start sweating a little bit, because you know you're responsible for that. But we haven't. Unfortunately, we haven't had many problems at all. So
I know you really love your job here,
Sure.
but it's different from what you were doing before you got here, because before you were a recruiting assistant at Pfeiffer. Before that, you were the head coach at St. Andrews, a Division II team in North Carolina. You played there as well.
Sure.
So you've been involved in all kinds of different aspects as a coach at the collegiate level. What's it like, what you're doing now, compared to when you were maybe out on the road recruiting?
Sure. The one part I really, and I've kind of always been a positive person. One thing I really like about this job is I get to spend a lot of time with the student athlete. You know, even when I was a head coach at St. Andrews, you'd rush out of practice to go recruiting, and you know, at that level, you only have, you know, two guys, you and one assistant, maybe a volunteer, so you can't spend as much time with the guys. You know, me not being able to go out on the road and recruiting like that stuff, I'm there every day, and I really enjoy spending time with the student athletes and watching them grow. And you know, that was an important time in my life, and figuring out who you're going to be and what path you're going to take. And I think that's a springboard for success in the real world, which Coach Major talks about all the time. But you know, basketball and things that you do every day apply to the real world.
Coach Major's given you a lot of credit, Rob, during that transition period as he became head coach. And you sort of were the one contact the players had with authority, with a coach. How tough was that for you to go through?
You know, I think anytime that there's change, the players, you know, are a little bit lost. But Coach Major, and I told him this before, you know, he did such a great job of coming in and kind of grabbing the bull by the horns. I can remember this, the day of his press conference. I mean, he was meeting with players until about 7 minutes before the press conference, and rushing off and doing the Superman thing and getting ready, you know, to go up to the press conference. And here he is, you know, meeting with a player 5, 6, 7 minutes before we go up there. And, you know, I would have been, you know, thinking about that. And he did such a great job of just kind of embracing and spending a lot of time with the players. So that made it really easy, in a sense. You know, when the search is going on, and everybody that you've ever talked to once is who's going to be the next head coach and all that stuff. And I told the players, you just got to be there for each other, and just got to worry about working on your game and taking care of your schoolwork, and that'll take care of itself. And so that was kind of, you know, my whole point of emphasis, so to speak. I'm very fortunate that Coach kept me around, and absolutely love Charlotte.
You've been here a while now, and I know you've had opportunities maybe to become a recruiter again, a different kind of aspect as a coach, but you chose to stay at Charlotte. I know you have a love for the university, and you told me your goal, you just want to get back to the NCAA tournament. You want to experience what that's like at this level with this team because you've heard of what it was like before, and you want to be a part of it.
Right. You know, I enjoyed, I coached a very special Division II team at Pfeiffer. We were 18-0 in the league, and that hasn't been matched, went undefeated, and had like 12th grade team in the country, and we played really fast. But to do it at this level is something I think would be really special. And I think, you know, all that, to me, it's a lot more about the journey, you know, the day-to-day grind of it. And Coach uses the word pride. You know, every time we stack it up, we say pride or personal responsibility. You know, just that's important to me. And to get back there, that's the goal. I mean, you know, I think, why not Charlotte? You know, why not Charlotte?
I know you're a big baseball fan from Minnesota and a Minnesota Twin fan. And, of course, yesterday, Burt Blyleven gets in the Hall of Fame. But your dad, I know he's a huge baseball fan, huge Twins fan, and I know how big of a part he is of your life.
Sure.
What was that like when you got a chance to talk to your dad yesterday? You know, he told you that Burt Blyleven was going to Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't know if he handled it too well with some of his quotes, but no, I mean, you know, I grew up, to tell you kind of why I'm a big baseball fan. My dad is a Hall of Fame softball umpire, and so I kind of grew up, you know, jumping in the back of the car at age 7 and riding down to the park, and for 4 hours every night I would just kind of jump from team to team being a bat boy or whatever, and that's kind of how I grew up at the ballpark. And so I you know, developed a love or passion for baseball and sports just in general there, and so, you know, I don't get to see my parents often being there in Minnesota, but you know, when we call, you know, mom wants to know if you're healthy, and you know, I want to know how all the Vikings and the Twins are doing when I get on the phone with my dad. So.
Has your son Carter yet gravitated towards either basketball or baseball?
Yeah, I was afraid of being psycho dad, so I didn't put him in basketball until this year, and you know, those games were precious. He's doing baseball, basketball, that stuff, and so that's just like coaching a team. That's really special to see, you know, work with your son doing that. And I'm just trying not to be too overbearing.
Another part of your job is also mentoring the guys that are just starting out, like our managers, and there are what are called graduate assistant managers, or they have different titles nowadays, but also the student managers, and Steven's here now, and Matt Messina. These guys work awfully hard, too, behind the scenes, do a great job.
Sure, yeah, that's, you know, part of it. That's basically what I did. I volunteered. I was at a Division II school, but, you know, you come in and you know, all you're really offered is opportunity to work. You know, get paid anything, or you know, and that's why somebody did that for me, taught me about the game, and showed what it was like to work hard, work for whatever you're going to get, and those guys have been great, and you know, they do a great job. They're invaluable.
Coach, it's always a fun chance to talk, and it's been an interesting season so far, and how it's grown, and it's certainly been a lot of fun as of late. And I know it's going to be a great finish before the year is over, and thanks for everything you do.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Rob Parent's been our guest, Niners Director of Basketball Operations, assistant coach, here on the Alan Major Show tonight. Got still about 12 more minutes with Coach Major coming back. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. 704-358-8768. We'll talk about St. Bonaventure. That's the game coming up this weekend. 4 o'clock tip. Also, it's on Masson. Got the Masson viewing party right here at Wild Wing Cafe. And I heard the folks that came out here for the Georgia Tech game a couple of Sundays ago, or last Sunday actually, really had a great time. So it's 4 o'clock on Saturday. That's going to be St. Bonaventure on Masson right here at Wild Wing Cafe. Back with more in a moment. This is Niner Basketball, the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe out on Mallet Creek Church Road with Charlie Frederick on Matt Swerat alongside Niners head coach Alan Major. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. Got the big game coming up on Saturday, second road game in conference play, 4th consecutive road game as the Niners try to go 3-1 during this road swing. Again, our phone number is 704-358-8768. That game's going to be on Masson. Also want to thank, before we keep going, Rob Parent for being our guest, brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improved. Coach, going to Olean, New York, not an easy place to get to, but we're going to fly up in a snowstorm tomorrow, and it's going to be about 19 degrees. And
Right.
I know it's going to be warm inside, though, on Saturday afternoon. It's always a tough place to play, and the fans come out no matter what the weather is, and they're going to be ready for us, and
Oh, yeah.
I know you're going to be ready for them.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's I've been up there before, being at Xavier, and those are days of Marcus Green and J.R. Brimmer and those guys, so the environment is hostile, as you'll find. So it's going to require extraordinary effort. As we say on the road, you've got to be a certain amount of points better, than you normally are, because guys take chances at home, and guys are more comfortable at home, and you got the crowd energy to encourage you a little bit. So, no, we'll have to bring great effort. And clearly, a game that we have a chance to win, but we'll have to play well.
League's leading scorer, Andrew Nicholson, he's a special player. He actually got in foul trouble last night, 4 fouls in that game against Arkansas in Little Rock. He wasn't as big of a factor. As it turns out, they didn't really need him the road to win. He only scored 11, but again, he was in foul trouble. This kid, though, is pretty special.
He is. He's talented. He's got all the things you need in the post. Jump hooks, spins. A little bit of everything. He's kind of like probably the 2 best ways to guard him is, number 1, don't let him catch it, and number 2, don't let him catch it. So, and obviously, he got in some foul trouble last night. You could probably say that'd be the 3rd way. Is the best way to guard him is he's over there sitting next to his coach. So, but he's talented. You have to make things tough for him. Not just let him catch it on what we like to call the sweet spot in the post where guys feel comfortable.
He can step out, but he's more of a back-to-the-basket guy, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's capable, 15, 17 feet, but not sure if that's what he wants to do and where he's best at. So, we'll have to guard him by committee and do a great job.
You guys are playing your 4th straight game on the road. Are you worried that the guys are getting a little bit road weary? Looked a little tired to me last night.
Yeah, I hope that's not it, but that is a factor. I mean, you don't want to ignore the reality of college basketball. I mean, let's face it, we haven't truly been in Halton Arena since the Wright State game.
Right.
And before that, it was the Winthrop game. So you're going, basically 2 home games in a month. Talking, by this Saturday or Sunday, I guess, 2 home games in a month. So, but that's part of it. We've and the part you can't control is the league part. You don't know how the league stuff is going to shape up the way that goes. But at the same time, we really want to focus on doing what we do. And the beauty of it is they can't raise the rims on the road, and they can't throw 2 extra guys out there and make it 5 versus 7. So you try to keep that as common as you can, and you try to keep their road routines as common as you can in terms of, all those things too.
A good thing you haven't had to go to class during this time period, so they haven't had to worry about that
They
in
love
addition
that.
to playing ball.
They've been in heaven. Yeah, they're living their NBA pro fantasy right now. Just, wake up and go to the gym and get a workout in. You practice, collect your per diem, and head home, go get some Bojangles. So they've been in heaven as far as with no class. But all that's about to change, obviously, next week, back into the academic routine.
As we're into conference play now, are you paying a little bit more maybe attention to what the other teams in the league are starting to do? And it just, you're worried about the game ahead of you and what's coming up the next time, but as you start to look at who's doing what, who's winning, who's losing, are you a little surprised with some of the scores you're seeing?
I'm going to be the guy to kind of be thinking about us on the bus, and then I'll hear the assistants, one guy will say, "Oh, this team lost," and then another guy will say, "Oh, well, that team lost." And I probably tend to be more consumed with us.
Now, were you that kind of guy though a year ago? Were you like, hey,
actually,
Indiana last night just lost to Minnesota?
No. As an assistant, I always tried to try to focus on one team. I don't know if that's uncommon or whatever, but number one, I'm not smart enough to think about too many other teams than ours. Number one. Number two, every moment you spend thinking about another team, that's another minute you spend not thinking about us. And, you can't control who beats who and who plays who. But I know we can control what Charlotte does. And so, and assistants, I don't mind that. I mean, because a lot of those guys, they're looking at it for scouting purposes, and they're following scores and, making sure they know what's going on. And I just try to kind of keep my hands on our wheel and keep it simple.
You just touched on something with the assistants and scouting. How do you, as a head coach, how do you want your assistants breaking up the scouts. I know it was a natural that Ryan Odom did the Georgia Tech game. He was at Virginia Tech, was in the ACC. But how do you break up the scouts in league play?
You know, it's a credit to the guys that I have. Those three sat down in the preseason before practice started, and they broke it up themselves. And that it just goes to show you when you have great assistants that they can just kind of grab that bull by the horns. And they sat in the room one day and they locked the door, and they didn't come out until it was figured out. And so some of that is you look at who's coached in certain leagues, who's got experience, with certain teams. And but they've worked all that out, and I myself, I just try to get the information from them, and I still like to personally watch games myself. I don't, and not highlights, but I just like to sit and watch the flow of an entire game, whether it's 2-3 games, just so you get a feel, for what's going on. But those guys do a great job, and I can't say enough about Rob wanting to stay on with us, even though he doesn't per se have scouting related duties because he's limited in terms of what he can do on the floor, but him deciding to stay with us just was unbelievable. I mean, he's the stuff that he does behind the scenes, it's amazing. So we're lucky to have him too.
Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you would prefer, if you had the manpower, to play mostly man-to-man defense. But you've had to adjust, you've had to play a lot of zone, and it's really gotten better as the season has progressed. What's been the key to that?
I think it's just repetition. I think some of it is just, the more you play it in games, and we've had to use it, especially, as a thing to maybe throw off a team's rhythm. You'd rather much do it out of strength than out of weakness, But, guys are just getting better playing. Different guys are, sometimes JB will be up top, and other times Gokin may be up there and JB's down below. Different guys are having to play different spots in it, but they're improving, and we have to continue to help them and prep them on what other teams are going to try to do against them so they can have some awareness to see some things coming. But, we'd love to have man-to-man as our base, but, with depth and things like that, you do what you can. And to the kids' credit, they've done a nice job adjusting.
They really have.
We got about 1 minute left, Coach. With St. Bonaventure on that defensive theme there, they don't play a lot of guys, 7, 8 guys. What do you think you can do to be effective against them?
Whatever makes them miss. But no, obviously, we like to start games playing man. I think man or zone, no matter what we do, it's having great awareness of their personnel. Just for that reason, when you don't have 9 or 10 guys that you have to be concerned with, when they're, you're talking about, 6 guys, maybe a 7th guy, but the bulk of their scoring comes from their starting 5. So it's just doing a great job of knowing, who could do what. And, if it's man, obviously taking them out of their comfort zone so they don't feel like they can do what they like. If it's zone, just tagging guys and knowing where they are. And everything goes through the big fella. So we'll have to do a great job with him, number 1.
Coach, thanks so much. Great run so far. Good start to 2011, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to the Niner Nation out there, too.
With Charlie Frederick, I'm Matt Swore. I want to thank Daryl McCray and Travis Hancock as well here from WBCN. And speaking for Coach really quick, I want to thank all the Niner fans that have shown up on the road. The crowds have been fantastic. Georgia Tech, great crowd last night at Richmond with a bus trip. And Nick McIntyre actually took Amtrak up. Our great friend Sharon Gilbert from Amtrak, that was awfully nice to set him up going up that way as well. So thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. And join everyone else here on Saturday, Mass viewing party right here at Wild Wing Cafe, 4 o'clock as the Niners take on St. Bonaventure. My pregame show starts at 3:30.